All right, hey, Salakia. Hey, Shalom. First and foremost, let me give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakaha Kwadash. All right, the one true name of the Heavenly Father is Yahweh. That is the name that he passed down to Moses to give unto the children of Israel, a name which he said will be his name forever and for all generations. All right. He has the only begotten Son who came down here upon the earth and died for the sins of the nation of Israel upon the cross over 2,000 years ago, and then was risen again and now sits at his right hand side. His name is Yahweh Shai. That is the name that the angel was commanded to give to his parents. That is the name that his disciples called him while he was here upon the earth, and that is his name as he is in the heavens on the right hand side of the Heavenly Father. That name is Yahweh Shai. So we have the Heavenly Father whose name is Yahweh and his son's name Yahweh Shai. Okay. Let me give double honors onto the apostles, the bishops, and the elders of Great Millstone that do rule exceptionally well. They continually feed the flock with 100% truth. They do that free of charge, and they continually push forth and magnify the name of Yahweh and of Yahweh Shai. All right. Let me say shalom, citations, mercy, and blessings to all the sincere brothers that's out there that's pushing this word with truth and with faith, striving to be a part of the hopeful elect and to the very best of your ability, doing what's right in the sight of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai and magnifying those names. Shalom unto you. My name is Tabawa Amath of Great Millstone Northwest. I'm coming back with another message. I'm hoping that the message itself is received. And realistically, I'm kind of fulfilling something that was stated by the elders of Dallas. All right. They went live yesterday, last night, as they usually do on Friday evenings. They usually go live with their camp segment. And as you was watching, they was going pretty heavy into the mark of the beast. They was going heavy into, how back in the Greek and the Roman time, they used tattoos to brand and to mark their property, their slaves, soldiers, so on and so forth. And right here at the 45-minute mark, all right, as they've been into this topic pretty much for the majority of the 45 minutes, all right, it was an ongoing topic, but right here at the 45-minute mark, I want to play something that was stated, which I did what they stated as I was watching the live, and I want to share what came back on my side with me using Deepseek as the AI generator, or the AI engine, or whatever you might call it. Okay, so let me play this, and you can hear what it is that the elders here are speaking on, and then we'll look over what came back from my search in the Deepseek. All right. And I would like to state that I did this right before the elder Ariala had showed up, which he went into Gronk and pretty much pulled out the information there on the live. So without further ado, let me play this video. All right. Off of the elder Yashawamba's page. And then we'll go into what I found through Deepseek. All right.
Out today. Okay, they did the brand back then
to indicate what master or general they belong to.
So how would this play out today?
Back a little bit more.
Standard brand pricked in or branded upon the, and it's from a primary steezo, which means to stick or to prick.
Boom.
And then the outline of biblical usage says a mark pricked in or branded upon the body. To ancient Oriental usage, slaves and soldiers bore the name or the stamp of their master or commander branded or pricked, in parentheses cut, into their bodies to indicate what master or general they belong to.
So how would this play out today? Okay, they did the brand back then. Okay, so if we were looking at today's world, what is something that could mimic this? How could they use this? You could probably even ask Chat GPT. How would the branding system in the tattoo system that the Greeks and the Romans follow, how would that play out today? I guarantee you it's going to say the microchip.
Yep. Technocratic system.
So the question.
Now it's pretty much the point right there. Okay. You see that this is on the Remnant Saved 144. If you didn't catch this, this was a very lovely sermon that the elders was getting into in Dallas. You can look at it on Remnant Saved 144. That's the Elder Yashawamba's page. Very edifying page. Every video, every single video is extremely edifying. So I do advise brothers, if you don't regularly watch, if you're not regularly watching the Elders of Great Millstone, starting from the Elder Apostles, working its way all the way down. If you're not watching that regularly, then you're doing yourself a disservice, as you could be gaining so much more in your spiritual understanding by watching them being edified and being built up. All right, but as you heard the Elder Yashawamba say, he said you could probably type it in the chat GPT, and most likely it's going to come back to the RFID microchip, which I did do. Let's come over here to Deepseek. All right, so this is the start of the chat right here, right at the top. All right, so this is what I typed in on Deepseek. I said, how did the Greeks and Romans use tattoos? So it gets into and this is just the introductory, just to start it off, so that way I can coach it into the way that I want it to go. All right, so starting off, how did the Greeks and the Romans use tattoos? It says the ancient Greeks and Romans had a complex and sometimes contradictory view on tattoos, using them for various purposes, ranging from marking criminals and slaves to religious or cultural identification. Here's how each civilization used them. All right, and this was pretty much the same thing that that the brothers have brought out. Okay, the Greeks marking slaves and criminals. All right, I'm just going to read these the numbered points, not the bullet points, just until we get down to the point. Okay, so marking slaves and criminals, which if you watch the video from Dallas, you'll get a lot of good information on that. Religious and cultural tattoos. All right, military use. Okay, Romans and tattoos was punishment and shame. Military tattoos and is that notia dignitatum, late Roman document. All right, I'm not sure exactly what that is. All right, suggests that some soldiers had tattoos as a form of loyalty marking. Okay, which the brothers got into that. Religious and foreign influences, number 3. Okay, declining of tattooing in the Roman world. Conclusion, whatever. So following up with this same topic, I asked, how would that system be used today? All right. And it said, if ancient Greek and Roman tattooing practices were adapted for modern use, they would likely serve purposes similar to the historical roles: identification, punishment, branding, and cultural marking, but with contemporary twist. Here's how such a system might function. So criminal and penalty tattooing, military and security use, corporate and government branding, like a slave owner marks. Okay, cultural and religious revival, like Greek cult tattoos, ethical and legal challenges. All right, it says, of course, there'll be ethical and legal challenges in today's world. All right, so the third prompt that I gave to it, now that it has warmed up to the information of the Greek and the Romans using tattoos, okay, it warmed up to the idea of that being used today. The third prompt that I put in, this is also the final prompt that I put in. Again, I did all this, right as I was watching the live, okay? It says, which this is way too much information to try to put into the comment board, of course. It says, what could be used in modern times? This is what I asked it. What could be used in modern times as an alternative? Okay, so in reference to everything that was mentioned above of the Greeks and the Romans using tattoos, and then how they could use such a system today, I said, what could be used in modern times as an alternative? All right, and this is where it gets juicy. It says, in modern times, several less invasive but equally effective alternatives exist to replace the punitive, administrative, or identifactory. I'm just gonna say identifactory. I don't know if that's I feel like that's not being pronounced correctly, but I'm gonna have a brain aneurysm trying to trying to make that work. Okay, it says use of tattoos from antiquity. These alternatives leverage technology, biometrics, and digital tracking while mostly avoiding the ethical issues of forced bodily marking. Okay, so number one, for criminal identification and tracking, instead of slave criminal tattoos, biometric database, fingerprints, facial recognition, iris scan, electronic monitoring, ankle bracelets, GPS trackers, RFID microchips, subdermal implants for high risk offenders, digital criminal records linked to government IDs. And we have all of these things, okay? All of these things are already currently in play. And this is the prompt was what would be used, what could be used in modern times as an alternative to using the Greek or the Roman tattoos. This is what they're doing for criminals. Rather than putting tattoos upon them, what they're doing is they got a biometric database. You do all your fingerprints when you get booked into jail. They get all your fingerprints. Okay, they take pictures of you. All right. Now, I'm not sure as far as if it's iris scan or not, but they do have your photo. They do log that photo in to be able to do facial recognition, so on and so forth. Electronic monitoring, ankle bracelets. I've had an ankle bracelet before. Okay, GPS tracking. We've seen them. We know that they do these things. I've had an ankle bracelet before. All right, not too long ago actually. All right, that's a story for another time. RFID microchips, subdermal implants for high risk offenders. Now, they're not mainstreaming this just yet, but this was the whole point. Okay, because this is what everything is leading towards, is that RFID microchip, which if you do get the RFID microchip, it will have a digital criminal record, okay, which is linked to government IDs. Your ID, your driver's license or your state issued ID will pull up your criminal record, okay? When the police ask to see your, when they pull you over and they ask for your driver's license and insurance or driver's license and registration or so on, what they do is they take that driver's license and they go enter your information into their onboard computer. And that onboard computer will pull up if you have a criminal record, okay? It'll pull up if you got a warrant out for a not paid ticket, so on and so forth. That it'll pull all of that up, okay? Now it says why better, meaning why is this form better than tattoos is what this means when it says why better. It says no permanent stigma, which that's one of the words, stigma, okay? Avoids ancient branding, cruelty, and easily updatable, unlike tattoos, okay? You can't updating a tattoo means you gotta get this person, you gotta set them down or hold them or whatever it is you gotta do and add to the tattoo that you've already given to them. Well, they don't got to do that. If it's digitally, especially if it's a RFID microchip, that can be accessed to some server that's not even currently in your face. Okay, so that was number one. All right, that was number one. This is number two. For military and personal identification, instead of legionary tattoos, dog tags with QR codes or NFC chips. Okay, NFC chips, near field communication chips, which that's the same technology as RFID technology. This is just speaking about it being in your dog tags, which that's not too far fetched. Again, I was in the military. I have dog tags. All right, your dog tags have a lot of information, and it's just stamped right there where anybody can read it. Okay, it has your name, it has your social security number. All right, it has your blood type. Okay, and I believe it has the fourth thing that's on there is your religion or your faith. Okay, and the reason they do that is because if they come across a dead body, all right, a soldier who had died on the battlefield, that way they can give them the proper burial according unto their faith. So if they were Catholic, they could bury them in the Catholic, according to the Catholic standard. But if they identified as a Viking, they could be buried in the Viking standard or so on and so forth, man. Okay. So I could see them moving that to some other way rather than having that information just out there open and available, because if you lose your dog tags, you just lost. Somebody else can assume your identity. They have a good amount of the information that they need to be able to assume your identity, being that they have your name, they have your which I believe is your full name, if I'm not mistaken, your full name, your social security number, and also your blood type, man. Okay. Biometric battlefield systems, vein pattern recognition, fingerprint login, smart uniforms with embedded sensors tracking vitals and location. And I can guarantee you that some of the armor, all right, the helmets, the Kevlar vest, some of that has chips and tracking technology in it. All right, especially on some of those missions where it's real covert and somebody's watching through a screen, ocean away. All right, they're gonna want to know exactly where the personnel are at, where they're located, so on and so forth. All right, that's not too far fetched. All right, why better? More secure, can be encrypted. All right, dog tags or you could just read those right there as they are. Okay, they're not encrypted whatsoever. However, if they use QR codes or NFC chips, they can make it where it's more encrypted. All right, and no risk of enemy using tattoos to identify spies. Okay, because in the ancient world that would be a thing. If the enemy recognized that you had this certain tattoo, they would know that you're a spy. Just as much as there's certain prison tattoos that people that's outside of prison, back released into the general public, will recognize on other, former prisoners, and they'll be able to know how it was that they got down while they was in the system. All right. Number three, for corporate worker control instead of slave branding, digital employee badges with NFC RFID access, and we see those. All right, those has been common for a long time. I remember years back, man. This had to be at least 10 years ago. This was probably even more than that, but at least 10 years ago, I remember doing a series of RFID in the workplace as I was going into a lot of different buildings in the construction field. All right, maybe it wasn't quite 10. Maybe it was 8 years ago. Okay, but going into these different buildings, a lot of times what they'll do is they'll give you a RFID card. Okay, a security card that you can scan. It will let you get through past certain doors. It will let you be able to access the elevators, so on and so forth. Okay, blockchain-based work credentials, tamper-proof, and work history, which that blockchain is about to be a pretty big factor in this whole system. Okay, AI surveillance systems, facial recognition for attendance. They're already doing that in certain places. There's certain companies that use AI to monitor workers to see who's slacking off, to monitor, who's being productive, who, was moving faster yesterday and moving slower today, so on and so forth. Okay. Why better, it asks. Avoid dehumanizing workers with literal brands and can be revoked or updated. Okay. Take access away from somebody or update it to where someone can have even more access. Number four, for cultural or religious marking instead of cult tattoos, temporary smart tattoos. And I didn't even know this was a thing. Temporary smart tattoo, biodegradable ink with NFC tech. Okay, Esau is diabolical, man. All right, how far down does he get? And you got Israelites, so-called Israelites, who believe in the Bible, but they can't understand that this devil is moving towards technology being his salvation. Okay, they have biodegradable ink. All right, that with NFC tech. That's craziness, man. All right, it exists because we're not in the realm of fantasy here. All right. It says digital tattoos via AR, augmented reality filters for rituals, um, cryptographic jewelry, wearable tokens with encrypted identity. Why better? No permanent commitment and can be hidden or displayed as desired. All right, which the real point was more on the government using it than it being some type of a cultural or religious thing. Okay, for national ID systems, number 5, instead of imperial citizen marks, digital ID wallets. They're working on a digital ID right now. They want the world to have everyone in the world to have a digital ID. Okay, they're trying to pass laws to ensure that everyone in the world is moving and operating with digital IDs. Okay, example given: India's Adhar, all right. Um, Estonia's e-residency. Okay, so India and Estonia already have examples of digital ID wallets. All right, biometric passports, facial recognition at borders. Okay, you best believe that they're putting that technology in the ports. Okay, whether it be airports, seaports, so on and so forth. You best believe that that's what they're doing is putting in either some type of biometric reader or facial recognition or AI or a combination of the stuff. Okay, it says vaccine microchips debated but possible future use. Okay, so it lets you know that, okay, this one isn't necessarily a real thing. The other things, it didn't give such a warning talking about debated but possible future use. Okay, and that's something that is being spoken about. All right, and some of these higher meetings, these world meetings where these countries are sending representatives to link together and be on one accord, these are the type of things that they're speaking about, man. Why better? No need for invasive bodily marks, harder to forge than tattoos, okay? Ethical and practical concerns. While these alternatives avoid permanent marking, they raise new issues: privacy risk, mass surveillance, data leaks, hacking vulnerabilities. Digital IDs can be stolen. That's why they want to go through blockchain, okay? It's hard to hack into the blockchain as everything is not on a single server, but it's got bits on all these different servers. Back in the day, some years ago, probably 10, actually a little more than 10 years ago, 12 years ago, as far back as 12 years ago, torrents used to be a big thing. Now people may still use torrents. I haven't used them since I want to say 2014 is about probably the last time that I used any type of a torrent to download anything. But the way that the torrents work is that um, all these different users that's linked to it will supply little bits rather than you just getting it all from one source, being able to download whatever you're trying to download from one source. It would be that as a collective, all these computers that has this information can supply a little bit of it. All right, so that way the download can come and it's not so easy to get shut down. All right. Well, they that's how blockchain works, and that's what they want to use for this system. All right, to back up this system, you'll hear people like Elon Musk speaking a lot about blockchain. Okay, and moving towards blockchain. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Trump was trying to put something in the works for blockchain um, and digital currency and so on and so forth, man. All right, government overreach, China's social credit system. Okay, they call that a government overreach. Okay, so China and India and what did it say, Estonia, those are all places that you can look to see that, hey, there's a form of this system in place, and the people are abiding by it. Okay, so it's not that far-fetched. Final verdict: modern tech provides better, reversible, and less cruel alternatives to ancient tattooing systems, but only if regulated carefully to prevent abuse. Would you trust a biometric ID over a tattoo, or does digital tracking feel just as invasive? Which is the last question. So that's what I asked in Deepseek, okay, in response to what it was that the Elder Brothers of Dallas was speaking of in their live stream
Why are these Israelite
yesterday. Let's run it back
camps
a
so
little bit.
reluctant? See, how would the branding system in the the tattoo system that the Greeks and the Romans follow, how would that play out today? I guarantee you it's going to say the microchip.
Yep. Technocratic system.
So the question is, why are these Israelite camps so reluctant, and why are they trying so hard to separate what you see, what we see, from what John saw?
Because the infrastructure's already there. It's already set up.
Which is a beautiful point, man. Hey, I just wanted to share that, man. Continue to cry until Yahweh Bashem Yahshai in hopes that we can get the hell out of this place, man. Shalom, shalom, shalom.